Welcome back. You're with the AM show. It is 6:22. The discovery of new medicines could be up to 10 times quicker thanks to, you guessed it, AI. Some companies are training artificial intelligence models to develop new drugs, and healthcare investors, well, they're definitely taking note. Thanks to our friends at Milford, we're joined by Milford Asset Management Global Equities Analyst, Deborah Lambie. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good, thank you.
Tell us, you've just come back from a big global healthcare conference. AI is all the talk.
Yes, so I've just spent 2 weeks in the US and I visited over 40 different global healthcare companies while I was over there, and it was at a couple of conferences. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was just how excited companies are about the potential impact of artificial intelligence in the drug discovery process. And so you and I, we might be using ChatGPT, which is a language or text-based artificial intelligence that outputs language or text. But drug discovery and companies are really excited about how ChatGPT, like artificial intelligence, and there is one called ChatGPT, how that might apply in drug discovery. And so these AI models, they are trained on huge data sets of known compounds, and their output is potentially new molecules. And so companies are really excited about this because it can potentially reduce the time and, importantly, the cost of making new medicines.
And cheaper?
Yeah, so cheaper. And so as we know, traditional drug discovery is very time consuming and very expensive. And this is in part because it's complicated to design new medicines. And then these new medicines also need to undergo, or molecules, extensive testing. And what we've seen so far is that AI models can develop new molecules approximately 10 times faster and then run simulations around 100 times faster.
Wow.
So this will be much faster and, importantly, cheaper. And then if you take this concept one step further, we've all heard of the concept of self-driving cars, and pharma companies are talking more and more about this really interesting example of a self-driving lab. And so this uses artificial intelligence models like what we've been talking about, and then also robotics. And so these together drive this kind of cycle of experimentation, prediction and analysis, and this iteratively generates new molecules over time. So this will be much faster and cheaper.
Wow, that is exciting. And obviously one of the biggest growing areas is the weight loss drugs, the Ozempics, and AstraZeneca, I believe, who everyone will remember from the COVID days. How is the AI going to help this?
And so this is a really interesting topic, actually. And this was another thing that investors were really focused on while I was in the US, is we know that Danish company Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, so these are the two front runners in the weight loss drug race so far. But what we're seeing increasingly is that more and more companies are coming to market with their early clinical readouts of their early stage medicines. And so you mentioned AstraZeneca, it's had their phase 1 weight loss drug readouts. And then another company which comes to mind is Amgen, which is a US biopharmaceutical company. And its shares were up 12% on the day when it released its early phase 2 results.
Wow.
And so what's kind of interesting here is that the current versions of these medicines are injectable. And so it's a once weekly injection. And then what's driving this excitement is that we're seeing these new medicines are coming in an oral form. And so while Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, they're the current front runners in the injectable versions, when these oral versions come to market, which is still a few years away yet, likely not until 2026, then there's going to be much more competition. And so investors are really focused on these kind of competitive dynamics.
Wow. And just to moving sort of finally away from the drug scene a little bit, ageing population was another big sort of talking point at these conferences, and how this ageing population is going to impact our society. Tell us about that.
And this is a really interesting one as well, because we know our demographics are changing. And here in New Zealand, we have around 20% of our population are baby boomers, and it's forecast by Statistics New Zealand that by 2048, the proportion of our population that is over 65, that will double. And so investors are increasingly focused on the implications of this. And this means increasing demand for healthcare, for hospitals, and interestingly, for death care services.
Wow.
And one company that I think really stood out to me was a company called Service Corp, and this is a US death care provider, and they talked about expecting a multi-year tailwind as baby boomers age, and we're going to see in 2026 the first baby boomers reaching 80 years old. So it's a bit of a morbid topic, but as they say in life, the only things that are certain are death and taxes. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Oh, well, there's some exciting things on the horizon. Thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Milford Asset Management Global Equities Analyst Deborah Lambie, and we're talking business every Tuesday and Thursday thanks to our friends at Milford.